All materials provided in this interview are for informational, educational, or entertainment purposes only and are not intended to be or serve as a substitute for professional, medical, or mental health advice, examination, diagnosis, or treatment. Welcome to Healing Doorways, a place where we explore different subjects to expand our human consciousness. I am your host, Alicia Marcano. My guest today, Sasha Preece, has over 15 years of experience as a traditional psychologist and family therapist. 5 years ago, Sasha had a particular case that she could not treat within the traditional framework. In her research to try to help this young person that was suffering from anxiety but could also see spirits, Sasha started to study and network with energy healers and alternative therapists. In this process, Sasha experienced her own awakening. Now her life mission is to inform mainstream professionals about these experiences and the benefits of integrating energy healing in their practices, as well as treating patients that are having spiritual experiences or going through a big transition in their lives. I apologize in advance for the quality of the sound of this interview. It was my very first one and done from an old laptop video program. I have added some subtitles so you won't miss any important information. Don't let this stop you watching this short but really interesting interview. It might help you or help someone you know. Thanks for watching. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for opening your house to me. It's beautiful and it feels really relaxed. So I feel much better now. Sasha, what's energy healing in your words?
So energy healing, for me, so I do a form of energy healing called Paloa. Energy healing is using energy, so you could say that it's energy from the universe, from divine source, from whatever you feel comfortable with. But basically the energy actually travels through you and actually you use it to heal the person that you're treating. So I've used it to reduce stress for people, for things like sleep, to reduce anxiety, and to shift people's moods. So it's based probably more, you'd probably find it more in Eastern cultures, that it's much more well known. Probably not so much in our Western culture. So it's actually, for me, it's a beautiful form of healing for people. It's non-touch, the form that I do. People lie down in a bed and I'm actually guided to actually shift energy within that person's space to create healing.
Is that very similar to Reiki?
It is similar to Reiki. I know that Reiki has different forms as well. So it is, so if people understand Reiki, it is quite similar to Reiki.
Amazing. I was reading your biography last night, which was amazing, very interesting. And you said that in the spiritual sector, if you don't shift, you will be shifted. And that you were shifted not long ago. So I just want to, you don't have to say what happened in the shift, but if you can tell us, how was your life before, or what you did before that shift, and how is it now?
Well, that's a great question. So I guess my journey probably began about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now, where I had a young person that I was seeing at the time who was having some spiritual experiences. So for a psychologist, I was a very analytical thinker. You know, we've got our checklist of symptoms that we need to go through, and this young person presented with some anxiety, but she also had experiences of seeing spirit. So for me, I was like, scratching my brain, what's going on here? Because they were quite detailed experiences that she said she was having at home and feeling energy in her space. So I actually interviewed the parents because I thought, I want to do a well-rounded assessment of what's going on. Speaking to the parents, they'd actually told me that they had a psychic in their family. Okay, so needed to find out a bit more. No religious background, no spiritual background, so I thought, okay, it's time to do some research. And I was put in contact with some people that I then started to learn from, just because I wanted to be able to help this young girl, and also put her in contact with somebody that could help her. So that kind of was the start. So the question about the shift and be shifted. So I'd started on this journey of learning. And a couple of years ago, I developed some connection myself with spirit, which is a really interesting story and probably a lot of detail that we can't go into now. But I was given the name of my business. Actually came through from Spirit on Waking one morning. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Okay.
And I started that journey, but I didn't really fully jump into it because as a psychologist, I've got all of my evidence-based practice. I was family therapy as well, so I was drawing on that for my client work. And then last year, I had, there was quite a significant incident, and I was getting that you need to clear out stuff in order to start this work. So, my work changed, my relationships changed, and I was kind of being told it's time for you to step up and actually start helping other people that are having these experiences too.
So you think if you didn't get shifted, you would have been still stuck in a very comfortable life?
I know, not in that little nice comfort zone, not stepping outside. Yes, but I think I've had a lot of young people that since this has happened to me have come to me with spiritual experiences. So, and I've been able to help them because I'd say, as a whole, including myself in the past, in mental health, we didn't really understand what these experiences were, other than probably to put it under someone's having hallucinations or, so I think the research I've done, the people I've networked with and met with, and, I think there's more that we need to be considering, really. So, so I'm hoping to be able to help people.
So is that your life mission now?
Oh, yes.
Or you
I think, no, honestly though, I think, we've all got to find what we're passionate about and what our heart's in, and I think that can really help people shift with their mental health as well when you actually start to connect with something really important for you. So, for me, this is what I love, helping people that have had some kind of spiritual experience, helping practitioners in that field because they probably wouldn't go to a psychologist.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they wouldn't understand, they'd feel like they didn't understand. So, and teaching people about what these experiences are, I know that that's where my heart is.
Well, we're very lucky to have you because it must be really confronting to have all this going on as a child, especially. Yeah. Any particular case, maybe a part of that first one, that make you, that you find a bit more challenging, or that you remember the most? Or?
Let me see. I've got one that probably stands out that I remember. The first one was probably my most challenging because I was just at a point where I was going, okay, well, this doesn't make sense with my own framework. Yes, people can have hallucinations alongside feeling anxious, but then when there's a family history, I kind of felt like I would be doing a disservice to the young person I was meeting with if I didn't actually explore further about what was going on. So the one that comes to mind that was probably, that stands out in my mind actually, was a young person who'd come to me and she'd lost a friend of hers the previous year, so someone that was her age, and she described a sense that this person was in her space where she was staying. The radio would be switched up and down, the doors were moved. She said it all started once this young person had passed away. And she really wanted to speak to this young person who passed and communicate something to him that was quite important for her. And, I sat opposite her in the room, and because this presence was actually really quite good at shifting things in the environment, the lights were flickering. He was she'd communicated something, and I get sensory experiences. So he'd also, when she'd said something, I felt pressure on my nose. So when you're actually doing this work, it's tuning into your sensory experiences as well. And I'm going, I've got this pressure on my nose, and I'm saying to, oh, and I'm getting, okay, he knows. So it's actually making the connections there. The spirit world will kind of communicate with symbols and signs, and they could be physical or images or, you know. So that one stands out for me because that was actually really quite profound in the way that energy of that young person actually entered that room in the same way that she was describing that he was in her space.
And after that, he went, or he's still around?
He was still around. She was much more at ease because she felt like he was able to hear her. So, yeah.
And also for people that are listening out there, what kind of cases do you usually deal with?
So, let me see. So, my psychology background, I've actually worked in child and adolescent mental health for about 15 years. Family therapy, so working with families. So I think, you know, this work has quite a variety of people that you can work with. Where I probably specialise is people who are having spiritual experiences, people who are having big life transitions, some anxiety and depression, and probably connecting people with a sense that we actually learn and grow from these experiences as well. The energy healing is complementary because it can actually shift any stuck energy that people are feeling. So if you're feeling like you're wanting to, you can see where you're wanting to go, but you're kind of feeling like there's a block. So the energy healing can help shift that block. It can also help to release stress. And I've used it also with people that are feeling quite anxious to reduce their anxiety, and having a lot of success at the sleep too. So long-term and short-term sleep difficulties.
So I guess my last question is, what is next? The next step on your life? What's next for Sasha? What's your next project?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've got some good ones. Good things on the horizon at the moment. So I am running an integrated healers network meeting. So integrated healers network meeting, which is once a month at the moment, probably will be once a fortnight soon, for mainstream therapists who are open to energy and spiritual healing or alternative therapies, and also for complementary therapists to come together to talk about the work that they do, network, and I guess just try and bridge the gap between the two. I'm also looking at running some supervision groups for other mental health practitioners, and running some conferences. So
that's exciting.
There's a little bit coming, just a little bit.
Would all that information be on your website?
Yes.
What's the best way to contact Sasha?
So my website is spiritualpsychology.com.au, and my email is ispsychology@outlook.com. And I also have a meetup group for the Integrated Healers Network meeting. So if you look up Integrated Healers Network, you can find information on that.
If you want to hear more about Sasha, there's the link below. Feel free to contact her if you have any questions. Yes, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.